Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, but American by choice. Coming to you with episode 281 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. For my live listeners, apologies, we are starting about half an hour late. This was due to some technical difficulties when I first tried to start the show. If you go to Spreaker, you'll see a very short piece of show there and basically no audio coming through. I don't know what happened there. Looks like the audio is working now. So once again, to my live listeners, apologies. But as many of you are listening either to the recordings or to the rebroadcasts on Red State Talk Radio Network or the 405 radio, it won't affect you as much. This show is coming to you for, I think now, finally, really the last time from Southwest Florida. It's been a fairly long run here, but all good things come to an end, and next week I expect I will be broadcasting from the main Patrick Come Lately studio, and after that, who knows. I want to start tonight, so I'm going to have my weekly summary and a number of quick topics that I handle in this weekly summary, quick topics and my comments thereupon. And here we go. That's right, Patrick Come Lately weekly summary. And first of all, something I picked up about a week ago, so roundabout or shortly after last week's show, was a video of Hilaire talking to some Black Lives Matter activists. Now, of course, you know that the Hilaire campaign shut these people out of any of the campaign meetings that Hilaire was having. I'm surprised they did that because she really needed some people in there, but she didn't want to have the whole thing disrupted like they did to poor Bernie Sanders. So she did meet with three of them outside of the normal campaign meeting, and this was videotaped, and it was a very interesting discussion, not at all positive. I felt that she was very standoffish, very not really very nice to them, but she did say some things that really made my blood run cold. I don't know about the Black Lives Matter activists, probably liked what they said. What Hillary said was, you don't change heart, you impose laws, allocate resources. Think about it. You don't change heart, so you don't expect people to be good. You impose laws and allocate resources. In other words, you impose laws. It's all the government imposing their will on people and telling people what to do. It's all about big government. If we didn't know that Hilaire was bad for America, just that phrase alone, you impose laws, allocate resources. It's obvious how they think of us, these elitists. But we knew that already, didn't we? Okay, next topic. A while back, President Obama was speaking at a LGBTQRMONSXYZ event at the White House. He was heckled, and he told the heckler that it was disrespectful to interrupt someone when invited to their house. Well, the left have yet again going to show you how hypocritical they really are. Today, Trump was talking in Iowa. He had a speech in Iowa, a campaign speech, a stump speech. But before that, he had a press conference. And at this press conference, he was asking a number of the journalists there, one by one, what their questions were. So none of this isolated, insulated, can't ask questions of Hillier that you see on that side of the fence. No, he was very open. They could ask any question they wanted, and he was answering without teleprompter or anything. However, during that event, one thing did happen, because Jorge Ramos of Univision, and of course there's no love lost between Jorge, and there's no love lost between Univision and Trump, let's face it. Anyway, so he was not asked for a question, so at a certain point he stood up and started shouting his question at Trump. Trump turned around and said, "Look, you haven't been asked yet, sit down and you will be asked later." But he refused to do that, and he was shouting, and Trump pointed to other journalists and said, "Ask your question," but they were unable to do so because Mr. Ramos was making such a noise. Eventually, he was escorted out of the room by Trump's security people. Now, Trump did actually say, hey, if he can behave himself, he's welcome to come back, and he did come back later. But, of course, the left went bananas over this, the fact that Jorge Ramos had been thrown out of this meeting, etc. But they're just hypocrites, because when Obama does it, they applauded it. But when Trump does it, yeah, I know, it's the double standard, but nobody ever comments on that. But, as you know, I do. And in actual fact, when Senor Ramos came back into the room, was allowed back into the room, he actually had quite a long animated discussion, not just one question like all the other people had, but a very animated discussion. And this shows the other thing that regressives have. I don't know if you've noticed it, but Fox has a lot of left-wing people on in the interest of being fair and balanced. I don't know that they're all that fair and not necessarily all that balanced, but they try to make the appearance of it. But have you ever noticed that when you have a left-wing person on, they just like to keep on talking and basically try to shout over the right-wing person that might be there, and they just keep on and just trying to ram their position down everybody's throats. The most interesting one was one a couple of weeks ago, was a lady who was defending this whole Planned Parenthood thing, and she had this most excruciating voice. It was it just sent shivers down my spine. It was really bad. However, so she had this awful voice. She was screaming over both, and I can't remember whether it was Greta or Sean or Kelly. I don't think it was O'Reilly, because he wouldn't stand for it. But anyway, so she was talking over everybody. But the interesting thing was that with all these things trying to force her talking points, and you could tell it was nothing else but that. But she was just doing that, and she happened to mention, she was talking about these videos that have been released and claiming that they're all doctored and fake and everything. And then she said really the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because she mentioned the fact that 6 states had done investigations and had basically come to the conclusion that the Planned Parenthood in those states had not done anything wrong. Now, a couple of provisos to that. Who did the investigation? Were they left-wing investigators likely to overlook things, or, and let's give Planned Parenthood the benefit of the doubt, or maybe they weren't doing things like have been recorded on those videos in those states. Also possible. So this woman all of a sudden is screaming, and see, the videos are faked, and it's proven because the 6 states have investigated and there was nothing untoward. And I thought, you are such a dumb young lady. The fact that those 6 states investigated and didn't find anything untoward is no proof whatsoever that the video was faked. All it proves, if the investigation was above board, and like I said, with these left-wing people who practice taqiyya as much as any Muslim does, yes, the art of lying to prove your point, lying for the cause, right, Alinsky tactics. But let's assume, as I said, that they were above board. All it proves is that the Planned Parenthood organizations in those 6 states were clever enough to keep their noses clean and not to do anything wrong. It doesn't say anything about the videos, which are definitely proof of bad things happening in the other locations where those videos were made. But it's to me, it just shows, the again, the hypocrisy of the left, and also this thing of the left that you give them the microphone and they just have to take all that they can get. Anyway, but as we say, folks, there's more. And just a warning, folks, yesterday in Mexico City, there was a large conference of signatories to the UN's ATT, and that's not a phone company, it's the Arms Trade Treaty. Now, the good news is that although America supposedly has signed it, it is not, their signature is not valid because it hasn't been ratified by the Senate, and that is still part of the Constitution. I know Obama tries to ignore that, and with the TPP basically got the Senate to vote to get rid of that particular control that the Senate has, but for other treaties it is still valid, and so the United States is not a member of the Arms Trade Treaty, but Obama is looking for ways to bypass the Constitution and impose that upon us anyway, because in the usual UN speak, they call it an arms trade treaty, so like all regressives, it sounds, well, nothing wrong with that, controlling arms, preventing rebels and terrorists getting hold of arms. But what it requires is that for each state that's part of that to keep a list of who actually has and receives the arms that might be shipped from one country to another. Do you catch my drift, folks? Register of all arms, not just arms purchased like we have to do now, but all arms that anybody has. Yeah, a backdoor way to introduce gun control. Terrible, isn't it? Okay, folks, one last thing while we're talking about gun control. You may remember, and I think it was around the time of Sandy Hook, all these chest-beating regressives standing up and saying, we have to have gun control. If we have better gun control, if we save just one life, it's worth it. Well, how about this one, folks? If we just have better immigration control, then if we save just one life, isn't it worth it as well? Don't all lives matter? Nah, the left will never see it that way, unfortunately. Okay, folks, it's time for the first commercial break, and I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And folks, thanks for sticking with me. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, and I'm in the middle of my weekly summary, a number of short, quick topics that I touch upon and give my commentary, and then of course I do want to move into the 14th Amendment, which is kind of the main topic for today, obviously brought forward by the Donald, but also now being harped upon by many others, both for and against, etc. But we'll talk about that shortly. The next topic I just picked up just before the show, and I really wanted to bring it in. I haven't had an opportunity to actually dig into this because to be honest, it is so unbelievable that I'm wondering whether or not I may have picked it up off some kind of spoof, sarcastic site, something like The Onion or something like that. But as far as I could make out in my quick pulling up of this information, it is real. And I thought, well, you know what? I have to share this with my audience because this is just so absolutely unbelievable and disgusting, actually, that hopefully people who are in the area involved can maybe do something about it. And what I heard, or what I read, was the following: that 2 Democrat mayors in Michigan are causing outrage because they have decided to host an official city-hosted Muslim Ramadan celebration. Now, Ramadan ended in July. That's the holy month when when Muslims fast, religious celebration. Catholics fast for Easter. Muslims have a whole month that they fast. They only eat at night, fast during the day, and then at the end of Ramadan, they have a big party. Well, for some reason, Ramadan ending in July, the mayors did not hold a big celebration in July. Why? Don't know. But anyway, the mayors, together with the Islamic Society of Greater Lansing, this is the mayor of Lansing and East Lansing, working with this Islamic Society, have decided they will have their dinner in, can you believe this, in September. And not just in September, but on September the 11th. Yes, the very day that 19 Muslim terrorists killed almost 3,000 innocent victims. That fateful day in 2001. Are they absolutely blind or just so arrogant to do this? And it makes you wonder. I mean, I can understand the Muslims wanting to do this and rub it in our face, but that these Democrat mayors go along with it, I just cannot understand how people can do it. We should start a recall on these mayors. So anybody living in the Michigan area, especially Lansing, find out if you can do a recall, because these mayors need to get booted out. This is something that is just a slap in the face of all Americans, especially those affected by the September 11 tragedy. But this is something that really is a slap in the face for all liberty-loving Americans, all liberty-loving people around the globe. I promised some Trump topics tonight. Here's a very quick one. A lot of people have been asking for specifics, and one of the things that has surfaced as a specific is information about Trump's tax plan, and it's actually been in print. It comes from his book, his 2011 book. So this is 4 years ago. Time to Get Tough: Making America Number One Again. And he laid out his plan there to transform the American tax code. It's focused on the income tax, but in some ways it's a series of numbers. So think Herman Cain with his 999. This is the 1, 5, 10, 15. And basically he said it will be a 1, 5, 10, 15% graduated tax. Basically everybody making up to $30,000 will pay 1%. So everybody has skin in the game. I like that. Income from $30,000 to $100,000 has a flat 5%. From $100,000 to $1 million is taxed at 10%, and everything above $1 million is 15%. Means you get to keep a lot more of your salary, a lot less tax. Now, obviously, there's a lot of the government is expensive, so I don't know whether this would cover everything. But of course, with all that extra money floating around, that means there'll be more jobs, more people paying taxes, so more money into the coffers. So who knows? It might work. Now, my preference is still for the fair tax. I've talked about this on the show before, but I could live with this one from Donald Trump. Okay. And I've talked more recently, we've talked about what happened to Kate Steinle and then other illegal immigrants that are committing crimes. How about this one? A violent illegal immigrant was set free from jail. He was in there. It doesn't specify why he was in jail, but he was released from jail, and within minutes he actually stole a car in a carjacking, not just breaking in and stealing a car that was parked. No, he threatened a woman, threatened to kill her, threw her out of the car. He'd been in the detention center since June and then was released this week. So the news reports didn't say why he was in there or why he was released. But he approached the woman in the parking lot, demanded she get out of the car. He had a knife in one hand and a brick in the other, put the knife at her throat and forced her out of the car, and then led the police on a wild chase through DC, Bethesda, etc. And strangely enough, the US Secret Service were involved with this, and I'm just wondering why they were. Was that because it was in DC or whatever? But they actually called the Montgomery County Police because they ended up in or started in Montgomery County, but went all over. So very interesting. But this is just another reason why Donald Trump is right. We need to get rid of all these bad people and just throw them over the border. If you want to take them up in a helicopter and throw them over the border from 1,000 feet, fine by me too as well. And finally, for our last weekly summary, I want to comment again upon dear leader and his how presidential he acts. Not. Apparently he has a new term for his opponents. He just came back from vacation. I don't know if you've seen the pictures on the internet. He and his family looking very glum as they stride back to the White House, getting off the helicopter. They obviously really love being in the White House, but we knew they don't like that at all. I don't know why he even bothered to get into that position, just to foist all his crap on us. But anyway, on his first day back from vacation, he immediately got into Air Force One again, and then hit the road to attend a clean energy summit in Las Vegas, which was hosted by his dear friend Dingy Harry. And he was also there to headline a fundraiser for the successor that will take over from Harry Reid, at least the Democrats hope, because thank goodness Dingy Harry is retiring. Apparently on his way to the fundraiser he was riding with Reid, and they were talking about things, and the word is that they were figuring out how we're going to deal with the crazies in terms of managing some problems. In other words, his opponents are the crazies. That is just so unpresidential. But you know, the guy is an a-hole, and we should have known it. How he ever got elected for a second time. We are the stupidest country in the world. Donald Trump says it all the time, but the fact that we were able to vote again and put this nutcase back into power is just absolutely unbelievable. Okay, folks, time for the main topic. But rather than doing that, what I'll start that after the break, because see, the break is coming up. So I just want to remind you, if you are listening to this and you're not listening live, and probably not because tonight, due to the technical problems, we're late. If you want to contact me, send me a letter, an email at stephan@patriotcomelately.us, and I love to hear from my listeners, so if you've got comments, questions, feedback about the show, please do get in touch with me. If you don't want to send an email, you can also go to the website www.patriotcomelately.us, and there is a link there. There's a button for a contact form. go to the contact form, fill in the information, and I will get your message. I will reply to you directly, but I will also try, if I can, introduce your question, feedback, comments into the show at a future date. Let's see, folks, it is indeed time for the commercial break now, so I'm going to step away for a moment and have a sip of my adult beverage. I have a local craft beer that I'm drinking tonight, and I will be back after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And this is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately. Welcome back to the second half of the show. We had weekly summary in the first half, and now I want to get to our main topic. The main topic is the 14th Amendment and all the discussion that has been let loose again by Donald Trump. The Donald has stirred things up. And now there are all sorts of discussions going on, and many commentators like O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly and whatever are saying 14th Amendment is very clear. It confers birthright citizenship. That, quite frankly, is incorrect. And there is a very good article in Conservative Review. So for those of you that want to see the full article, go to the internet, Google Conservative Review. It's called The Originalist Case Against Birthright Citizenship. And it explains very clearly why the interpretation of the 14th Amendment that everybody leans upon, which is the Wong Kim Ark ruling of 1898, is actually wrong. We are told as well there is no recourse through our elected representatives to prevent these illegal immigrants from gaining a legal foothold in this country. But that the only reason for that is a footnote from the most radical anti-originalist justice of this century, William Brennan Jr. So let's first of all go back to that 1898 ruling. Let's suppose that that is actually impregnable constitutional law. This means that the 14th Amendment would compel Congress and the executive agencies to grant citizenship to all children of legal immigrants, because that was the ruling in the Wong Kim Ark case. It was not regarding illegal immigrants. Many agree, as a matter of policy, it is a good idea to grant children born to legal permanent residents citizenship, and therefore you accept that law or that decision as settled law. But if we let it apply further than just legal immigrants, then we have to think about what actually were the intentions of the founders, and I've talked about this in a recent show. Now, first of all, it has been made very clear with writings of the time that the drafters of this amendment clearly had no intention to mandate birthright citizenship for all immigrants, let alone illegal immigrants. But even they didn't feel that legal immigrants necessarily had the right for that. In other words, if you came here as a legal immigrant and your child was born here, it was not, they didn't intend for your children to be American. They still had to be naturalized the same as the parents would be. If we accept this interpretation of the 14th Amendment, we'd also be adopting a one-directional decision of an activist court that actually overturned two previous court decisions, the 1873 Slaughterhouse cases and Elkins versus Wilkins in 1884. In those cases, the Supreme Court made it very clear that the original intent of the 14th Amendment was primarily to grant equal rights to freed black slaves. And here comes the important part, that the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" required that the petitioner for citizenship be completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them direct and immediate allegiance. And the only way to do that is by naturalization, to have the petitioner, have the person request it, not have it because they were born. These cases excluded children born to foreign diplomats and Native American Indians, and were quite clear that the meaning of the 14th Amendment would not include all children of immigrants, most of whom would have been covered by less political jurisdiction than even those born on Indian reservations, right? Because the Indian reservations at the time were only partially under U.S. jurisdiction. So think about that. If we say the 14th Amendment applies as many of these modern day people think it applies, we'd be overturning the most logical meaning of the citizenship clause, rendering the second phrase basically superfluous. Then subject to the jurisdiction thereof has absolutely no meaning. Now, we've said the drafters also didn't want, had no intention that birthright citizenship should be there. And as I said before, you look at their writings, then that's exactly what they said. By accepting this interpretation of the 14th Amendment, we're adopting the Revolutionary era feudal system of English common law, which rooted in the fact that men are subjects of the state by virtue of being born on the soil. And this is again something that the people did not agree with, because they had the consent-based notion of citizenship. In other words, you had to apply for citizenship and you had to agree to the allegiance of the country you were joining. And so while a lot of our laws are based on English common law, this is definitely one that it was not included. Thomas Jefferson actually said our Constitution is a composition of the freest principles of the English Constitution. Now, the other thing is, if you apply the 14th Amendment very strictly, right, so the if it's treated as a constitutional mandate and not just policy, it means citizenship is based on the soil where you were born. In other words, all children born to American citizens abroad are not automatically citizens, which at the moment they do say are. And this was noted actually by the then Chief Justice Fuller, who dissented against the Wong Kim Ark decision. He also, in his dissent, mentioned that by mandating this automatic citizenship for children of immigrants born on the soil of America, the 14th Amendment would have the power to cut off the legislative power from dealing with the subject. Now remember, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution grants Congress plenary power over naturalizations. In other words, Congress decides what the rules are, not the Supreme Court. And Fuller observed, the right of a nation to expel or deport foreigners who have not been naturalized or taken any steps towards becoming citizens of a country is as absolute and unqualified as the right to prohibit and prevent their entrance into the country. In other words, just because you're born here, but if you don't take steps to become American, out you go. Boy, that would get rid of 11 million very, very, very quickly. Anyway, so that's I think, really interesting discussion there that's going on. But there's more. I mentioned Justice William Brenner in the Pyler versus Doe, which was a 1982 decision, and where there was a footnote 10 in his opinion that held a decision that absurdly forces taxpayers to fund K through 12 education for illegal immigrants. And that is also a bad decision by the Supreme Court. And because of, basically, Brennan said, given the historical emphasis on geographic territoriality, bounded only, if at all, by principles of sovereignty and allegiance, no plausible distinction with respect to the 14th Amendment jurisdiction can be drawn between resident aliens whose entry into the United States was lawful and aliens whose entry was unlawful. And that, folks, was the start of the rot. So what it means is that American citizens have, through their elected representatives, actually no recourse to prevent illegal immigrants from getting citizenship, if we accept that. Now, obviously, we're not, and Donald Trump is talking about challenging that, and it would be interesting to see when that happens whether or not we can get enough of these lefties on the Supreme Court to accept it. And just to go back to the Wong Kim Ark decision, these were Chinese immigrant parents who were actually domiciled in America, and they were here legally because this was before the ban on Chinese immigration was introduced. Yes, sometimes we can be very racist in this country. And domicile means a person's legal home, and it is very easy to say that illegal immigrants are not here it's not their legal home because they didn't come here legally, and therefore they are not domiciled here, and therefore they are not subject to the jurisdiction. Okay, folks, time for our last commercial break, and I will be right back.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me. We're into the final segment of the show, and just to summarize what we did in the prior segment, which was talk about this 14th Amendment, I really encourage you to read the full article at the Conservative Review. It is very, very, very clear, very, very elucidating, and really tells you, why that many of these pundits are wrong in saying that the 14th Amendment is very clear and says, yes, birthright citizenship is a right. It is not. And I think the main thing is this definition of domicile, the legal place of home. An illegal immigrant can never call America the legal place at their home because they never came here legally. And I think that is the main thing. The second point that I think is very important is that by doing so, basically you're circumventing the ability for the legislative branch to make decisions on that. And therefore, by taking that into account, this is the way that I think that they can, without a constitutional amendment, they can adapt the 14th Amendment to mean what it should mean by passing a law which defines what the jurisdiction thereof actually means, which means someone who is legally domiciled here, which means they have been, and I think the way you could define that is American citizens, so parents who are already American citizens, and you could extend it to people who are here as legal permanent residents. Everybody else, illegal immigrants, tourists, foreign diplomats are only here. They're not legally, or they're not domiciled here. They are just visiting here, and therefore they would not count. But anyway, I think we need to move on and have some other topics. And I want to chat very quickly about how do you spell liberal, regressive, Democrat? Those three words all get spelt the same way. Yes, you spell them the same way. Hypocrite. That's right, hypocrite. And why do I bring this forward? Well, you may remember a few weeks ago the spill into the river in I think it was in Utah that the EPA caused. And did we have crowds out there protesting, etc.? No, there was a strange silence. And yet, if BP or whatever, oil or this or that, the crowds are out there protesting this, that, and the other. But when the government does it, there's a strange silence. It's almost as if some spooky dude in a back room is calling these groups saying, this just happened, it's a private company, get the troops out, or, hey, ignore this one, nothing to see, move along, if it concerns the government. And the specific incident, right, it wasn't Utah, it was Colorado, wasn't it? The river ended up in Utah, so all this heavy metals and all this crap ended up in Utah, but it was actually in Colorado. This particular occurrence was actually predicted by a retired geologist. He actually wrote a letter about a week before to the local newspaper, and he said the EPA is planning a Superfund blitzkrieg for that mine, the Gold King mine it was, because they've been trying to get money for the cleanup, and he said what is going to happen, there's going to be an accident, and that will give them an excuse to apply for all this extra money. And guess what? 1 week later, that's exactly what happened. So very clever of this guy to expose our friends at the EPA. And as I said before, why weren't the green people out there protesting? Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's because Spooky Dude told them, lay off, this is the government, we don't protest against them. Okay, folks, we're getting close to the end of the show. Once again, to my live listeners, apologies for starting late. Hopefully next week will be a lot better. I'm going to be back home at the home studio, so less problems with the network. Plus, I'm going to have a new computer, and one which is much faster, so if I do have technical difficulties, it won't take me half an hour to get the show restarted. Hopefully it'll be 5 or 10 minutes if I run into problems like this again, but hopefully no technical problems next week. I haven't handled half the topics that I wanted to again this week. There's so much going on right now. Didn't talk about a surprising thing that happened in our in a socialist paradise, sort of a long way south of the border. Some interesting things going on in Venezuela, but we'll have to save that for a future show, and hopefully you will come back, and hopefully there'll be no technical difficulties, but hopefully you'll come back and listen. And please remember, folks, it's time to say ta-ta for now, but also please tell your friends, share this with your friends. Good night. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.